dropping in. So part of our morning check-in, dropping in notes, a word or phrase as to how we are feeling. And good morning and thank you all for joining as individuals are signing in. So what are we seeing? I want to pass it off to my colleague and good friend, Charles Sands, out of New York, working with Hudson Guild, and he's going to be supporting today, just sort of making sure that everyone's voice is heard and lifting up some thoughts and ideas that are shared in the chat room. So, Charles, what are some people feeling this morning?
Yeah, so good morning again to everyone. Excited to be here, and I see a lot of positivity going on today, as usual, which is always welcome. So we have Nisha, and again, I am so apologetic if I mispronounce anyone's names, but expressed feeling blessed. We have Richard, who's feeling eager. Zuquan is feeling optimistic. Tamra, joyful. We have Allison, who is feeling grateful and happy to see everyone, and I can certainly echo that as well. We have Monica feeling reflective, and Rebecca, who is also feeling grateful. So just generally, people are excited to be here and looking forward to reconnecting with the group.
Great. I am feeling excited to be back. Last week, I missed the call. I was tending to my mom, who did fall ill, but is recovering and doing better. So really happy about that, and sending my thoughts and prayers out to each of you, as I know that all of us have been touched by, in some way, either directly or indirectly, by this really pervasive virus. And so, again, my thoughts are with you all, and sending out some positivity and strength. So we just want to, for those of you who are joining and coming in, just want to make sure that you are able to access in the top of the chat. We dropped in the agenda for today. There were a couple of things that we had done, just making sure that you're caught up with those things. Updating your name on your profile to include where you're from, your organization, as well as your pronouns. And we just did talk about how we felt, feelings being dropped into the chat by way of word or phrase. So please feel free to continue to do that. So my name is Wessner Pierre, and good morning and welcome to you all for our fourth installment of Leaders Cafe. I need to get like an applause so I can press it. So when I say that, it's like, yay. Okay, yeah, there you go, Monica. Our fourth installment of Leaders Cafe. It has been a really incredible experience and a wonderful opportunity to be able to connect with Amex alumni. I know my personal experience with the Leadership Academy was one of just delight, joy, transformation, and truly one the sort of bedrock of it all was this intense connection with leaders. And so during this time, we thought that it was a really good idea to be able to engage with the alumni community. And so that was sort of the birth of Leaders Cafe. And for those of you who are new, we're delighted to have you, see some returning faces. Really happy to see you all again. And so this is our fourth installment. We have been evolving and growing and ideating and layering on to our engagement to make sure that we do keep it fresh and that we are bringing new thoughts and new ideas to the space. And so this week is without exception. We will be featuring for the first time a new segment, which we are referring to as our alumni expert panel. Where's my applause button? So that's a yay, alumni expert panel. So what that means for us is each of us who are here, we're alumni of the Leadership Academy, which means that we were selected. We're part of the chosen few, if you will. And so within our respective industry and within our respective spaces, we have a lot of value that we bring, and we are the supporters, we are the culture bearers, and we have lots to say about leadership and our experiences. And so Academy, and our experiences are ones that we would like to lift up during this time, and experiences and expertise. And so with that said, we are excited to launch today the Alumni Expert Panel, and we will be featuring our very own Monica King. Some quick information about Monica. Monica is the founder and CEO of Innovators Box. Innovators Box really focuses on harnessing and unleashing the creativity within us all. And what a perfect time to be able to connect and share and really learn about ways that we can continue to be creative despite all of the challenges that we have, and particularly during these really critical times of uncertainty. So Monica's gonna talk with us about a couple of things, including what brain hacks we can do to reframe our thinking, what ways that we can lead teams and communicate and communities with empathy, and also provide some tips on some quick facilitation, because we find ourselves in a space where we are often facilitating as we are living in this new normal of remote work. And so without further ado, I want to hand it over to Monica. Thank you so much for doing this, Monica, and take it away.
Thanks, Wesner, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in your time zone. It's super exciting to see many of your familiar faces in the past few weeks. And for those who I have not met, I'm really grateful to get to know you. Like Wesner has pointed out, I have a company called Innovators Box. A quick gist so that it gives a perspective for those who don't know me. I got into this mission because I know what it was like to be depressed in a job I loved, and I realized what is the secret sauce is unlocking my creative mindset. And so that's where I got curious in understanding how can creative mindset help you reframe culture, leadership, and team development and where we are. And I'm part of Amex Lead because our mission in itself is a social enterprise to help as many people around the world. And so that's kind of led me to a little gist of perspective, and hope as you're thinking about what questions you might want to ask a little bit more and dive deeper. And so knowing that this is new as well, I have a couple points I do want to share that hopefully would enumerate your thoughts and help you where you are. But wanted to open the doors and say, hopefully if we still have a few minutes, we'd love to see any questions and aspects I can address. And also opening the door, of course, if you have other questions later as well, please reach out. So, okay, a few things that I want to start is, as all of us are leaders here, always with many, many things that you have on your plate, I want to start with first saying that it is really, really crucial to understand taking a moment to pause and remember why you started what you started. I think so often it is so tempting as leaders that we immediately want to go to problem solving. I know many of you have already been in that position and where you are. And so the first brain kind of tip hack I want to share with you is that whenever you feel in that rushed moment, just give yourself an extra 5-second pause and just pause for a second. Okay, why am I doing this work in the first place? Why did I choose to do it? And how are these decisions, what am I about to say next, actually impacting the next whatever things are about to happen? Because I admit, for those who know me personally, I'm kind of an ideator. I like to say things, I like to build on things. And so I'm very aware that this is something that I need to constantly act for myself. And you don't know how that 5 seconds actually is the very thing that you just actually needed to give yourself a pause to reprioritize how you, and where you reframe things. That might have been the very thing that somebody else in your team member could have not been a trigger point. Could have actually helped them reframe how they understand what you actually mean by it. And so that's the first thing I want to share. The second thing is please remember that you are human. And I think, we're probably Amex Leads in the first place because we wanted to be a better leader of where we are. And something that means we got to remember and go back to being a human first. And so please know and prioritize how you self-care. And that could mean many things. For many of you, that if you're living alone, you know, are you sleeping well? Are you eating regularly? Are you making time to just think and process things? Please, of course, address any basic financial need, because that's immediately a stress of everyone's point. And I'm not going to discount any of that. For many of us, that might also mean immediate family concerns. And just making space for that and being okay to communicate with your team. And now at this point, I hope since we've had some of these conversations, those are all points where you've had time to ruminate and reflect upon. And what I hope you realize is that I want to still start with that, because what helps with creativity and what science constantly shows is that our best ideas and how our creative brain comes out does not happen when we are stressed or overwhelmed. And so when our temptation is to create and energize and create ideation, and like we got to immediately solve something, just remember that that best version is not happening when we are stressed and we don't have our immediate needs, and when we don't have a space for us to reflect and pause through that. And to help break that down, I tell people that, you know, really think about the eye of curiosity. And I see this in 3 layers. The first layer is really understanding where your need and your curiosity is. And like I said at the beginning, you know, if your immediate needs are not met, it is going to be very hard for you to be curious and be open-minded for your team's ideas, for other solutions and ways you can pivot, because you are stressed and you need to process it through. So focus on that. Know what makes you happy. Know what makes you stressed. Know what right now is something that you haven't solved that you feel tempted to solve. The more knowns you put it out, the easier it becomes to identify what your unknowns are. Are you with me so far? Is this helping? With a little on? Okay. So then you go with your team, which is your second layer of circle. Your team, maybe for some of you that your team is actually your family, right? And then you think about, okay, then what actually helps my team be energized? Do I actually know who's actually in a more financial stress so that I look out for them? Ooh, do I actually know a team member who actually just faced a moment where somebody's in the hospital? Should I readdress how I communicate that? All of those small things build up. And that connects back to that keyword in the workplace we call about psychological safety. And for those who are familiar with that, you absolutely would also know that why psychological safety is important. If you don't feel safe showing up to whether virtual or in-person meetings, you cannot absolutely share any ideas or how you really feel, and including any of these calls. And that's the very reason why Westerner and everyone else who's been building this community platform has been intentional about the back end work of how do we create these Zoom calls very intentional so that everyone who shows up, even a first time or the third time, that they feel safe. And all of you are creating those spaces every single moment as a leader and as a person. But again, remember, you're human. You got to take care of yourself to be able to have the space to help for others. And that leads to the third community layer, third eye, which is the community, which is actually a reason why probably we're all here, which is we like to serve. But without those two first being met, whatever, when we're jumping in to serve the others, we're probably creating too much of a rushed solution or attempt to problem solve without really going in depth. And so with those 3 layers of eye of curiosity, a few other pointers I want to share before I share some tips on moderation and facilitation is, if you forget any of this, just remember that the reason why I'm sharing the eye of curiosity is because we are what we consume. And this is because whether you choose to be also in this call, choosing what you decide to do during the days, and I completely understand a lot of things are out of our control, but there's small decisions we can decide to do, like how often you go on social media, how often you check your email, when you choose to go to bed, when you choose to spend time with your family, when you choose to set your meeting time. Every single decision could actually help you decide how you frame and what you consume, and then reframe your thinking around it. Because the reason why we feel stressed or overwhelmed or feel a little mellow right now, in addition to everything, is because what are we spending during the 24 hours? And so I ask for you as a quick activity, I ask for you as a challenge, look at the past week until Thursday, right? In the past, since Monday, I want you to take a moment and reflect, what are the things that you've done that empowered you, that helped you feel energized? When was the last time you felt loved? When was the last time you made other people feel loved and cared and valued? When was the last time you even laughed out loud? if we take a moment to pause and reflect, what you realize is that best days were probably when you intentionally spent a little bit more time in making space for that and you bringing that energy for others. But again, that's why I started with the eye of curiosity, because we can't do that if we're stressed out and we're not in our place. And so take the time to self-reflect, make space for you. If you need your bad days and need time to lament, find the people that you can talk it through, because we're all humans and it's essential that we need to know how to assess that. Okay, so then that leads to also the other point, which is respond and react are two different things. And also I'm just realizing, is my trash noise outside really loud? Can you hear me well? Okay, just so I like to always trouble. So respond and react are two different things. How you feel and how you immediately gut react, whether it was a disagreement you had with your colleagues, your clients not paying you, and what you're going through, you're right now not able to solve your 10,000 consumer communities that you have to serve and you don't have a solution, you feel upset about that, that's your reaction. You are absolutely allowed to react in how you feel. As a leader though, what I hope you realize, and especially as a human being, you can always choose to how you respond. And those two things are very different. And so I ask for you, it is absolutely okay for you to react, but you can always choose how you respond and process it. And so just keep those two words in mind. Again, your eye of curiosity helps you reframe your thinking. We become what we consume. And remember, respond and react. And so I think about the language and pausing. Okay, so with all of that now, you're like, okay, well now I want to know how I can facilitate my meetings better, because I'm always now leading meetings and I want to figure out how to think about it. The couple things I want to emphasize in addition to everything I shared is 4 points. Consistency is powerful, because there is scary about an unscheduled meeting popping up at your calendar. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that the call that's saying that I'm going to be fired finally? Let's admit it, that's on everyone's mind, especially as an employee. And by keeping a consistent routine, hey, you know what? We're going to always do our Monday calls to EQ check. I want to check how everyone's actually doing right now. That makes that fear go away for your team. And probably for yourself, because now you always got to make sure you show up for your Monday meetings and you want to refresh and sleep well on Sunday. So whatever that is, find a consistent routine if you haven't. And if you already have it, think about what you're covering during that consistent routine to think about that consistent motion. Is that a safe space you're creating? Simplify it, focus on empathy, but simplify it so that it's easy. Think about how we structured even this cafe, how it's been simplified with the structure so it makes it easy for everyone to join. The second thing is time respect, which I'm going to honor. So I'm going to make sure I end on time, as well as you all feeling how you honor your time in leading. And the third is keeping in mind it's a journey. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but even in my few minutes of sharing time with you, I've been intentional about creating a little journey, warming you up, breaking down a couple of things, and leaving you, but giving a clear note in where I'm heading. Keep that in mind whenever you bring people together, either as a leader, as a participant, or a community conversation, because when there's a clear journey, think about the climax and then the ending, and thinking about how you always end, whether it's like, hey, can we do a recap on what was good, bad, and where we can improve? Can you say all in one word? Can you share how you feel right now? All of that really helps. So think about that journey. And lastly, it's always more to do less. Sometimes we want to do everything. We want to jam pack. And I admit I have a long list of things I could actually go even dive deeper, but more is less. And so these are the notes I want to leave with you. And sometimes that's recognizing that you step in and you step out, because we got to give space for others. And this is absolutely an amazing time to actually hone your team members, perhaps that who wanted to share that voice, and let them lead. But you leading that example sometimes from the back would help. So leaving up, if I have Wesner any few minutes, maybe I'll open up for Q&A, but was this helpful in breaking it down?
Q&A time, sure.
Okay, so some Q&A time. Any questions that I can help you? Comments? Or did I break it down easily? Any questions, comments? Oh, thank you, Caitlin.
Hi,
Allison?
Monica.
I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
it was really helpful, Monica. And I wish I had some more time or I could have ripped you. It went really fast. It's really good information, though. Thank you.
We can actually probably take, that's a great point, Allison. This is Caitlin. We could probably cut this snippet and get permission for Monica to just share that on the
Absolutely.
LinkedIn group.
Absolutely. Charles, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just really appreciated so many of the points, and I'll kind of share a little bit more of that later. But I was curious to kind of get your insight around the outside factors that can help to either contribute to your creativity, or and that could be anything from, and I'm maybe thinking more so people as well, kind of the company you keep. And I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are around how important that is in having a creative mind.
Could you elaborate a little bit more what the outside factors you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about work environment, or identifying people in your own circle who are either kind of contributing to that creativity, or creating or contributing to your stress, but kind of differentiating, I guess, those two, and kind of how the importance of that, like how important do you see those factors?
Thank you, Charles, for elaborating that. And I'm so glad you asked it, because this is actually a great time to really dive into that, which is a couple points. One, I think you would relate to this. Our best days and most stressful days is actually caused by the same thing. It's caused by people. And so if you really think about that, and then one of the things that we always have out of control is, guess what? It's people. And so, Charles, your comment is absolutely on point, because I think the more we becoming aware that, what is our priority, knowing that we can't control even what our best friends will say at a wedding, which I know happens all the time. From moments of that critical moment where you've done all the prep work, and suddenly during a client call-in meeting, a community important emergency meeting, and then somebody blurts out something that was not intended to happen. Unfortunately, that is going to happen because that's always out of our control. And so one of the things I always help leaders and ask for you all to reflect upon is differentiate what really energizes you to be creative. And I hope that you're not letting some of the things that are out of your control to be the core way you measure how you be creative. Those two help you balance, then thinking about how you can then make sure you build your resilience, because you know how to play in your playground of creativity and know what intrigues you, know what excites you, know what discourages you. Going back to Charles, your example of perfectly sharing, right? If let's say I have a disagreement with a colleague, that would upset me. I know I would get upset, and I want to figure out how to hash out. And sometimes some people don't want to do that. So then I would get upset. But if I let that be the remaining factor to define my rest of my day, then I'm totally screwed, because I've let something else completely control the way how I feel. And so because I know that's something that bothers me, what I chose to do is I will do what I can to try to mediate the conversation. But after that, if I still can't figure out, then I try to figure out how I can resolve how I at least immediately feel by doing something else. Because I need to know how to build myself up, which goes back to your resilience. You have to control and think about how you build your creative thoughts, what energizes you, what you can have in control. And then thinking about how you can resolve and solve to the next aspect. It's another simple way to think about is that, I'll be guilty as well. I used to let the weather control how I feel every day. It's raining, darn it, it's going to be a bad day. And of course, guess what I experienced? I have a bad day because I chose to see everything else with that lens. And that's the powerful thing about the mindset is that, the most craziest thing, your thinking and how you choose to see the world impacts a large part of what you experience and what you go through, as well as what you can feel confident to create. And what I hope you're hearing through this is also recognizing that how you feel creative, how you can be more creative is different for every person. And that's the very reason why it's very important in a team setting that just because I'm an extrovert, I need to be mindful that the way my team members might be energized is not going to be the same way I do. So I need to then take a step back. And then that's where I think the leadership of creativity is, by balancing out. And then I see Wesner, which I assume is my time cue. So Charles, did I answer that?
Perfectly. Thank you so much, Monica, as always. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking that. And I always can share more if you have more questions. But again, thank you for having me, Wesner.
Yeah.
No, we can always go deeper, but I hope these nuggets could be of help and help you give space so that you can be where you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. We really appreciate you lending your time and expertise. Just want to highlight quickly in the agenda, I dropped in a link. Monica has embarked on a really fun project where she has been speaking with leaders throughout this time and getting sort of their feedback and expertise as well. And it's just really uplifting. So I would encourage you to it's a mashup of a number of people that she has interviewed. So I would encourage you to just check that link out. It's to a YouTube video. So our first question today is really around personal motivation and support. And James Ciro of Goldman Sachs says that people don't like change, but they can manage it. They cannot handle uncertainty. So it is the job of the leaders to eliminate uncertainty. That quote made me think about this particular time and all of the uncertainty that we're dealing with, and how it made me want to know how you as leaders are dealing with personal motivation, and also how you as leaders are dealing with support of yourselves. So this is a moment for us to be a little introspective. Throughout this series, we have been talking a lot about how we engage with our teams and how we show up as leaders for others. But I wanted to zoom in on ourselves today. So the question is, how are you remaining motivated during these uncertain times? It's sort of two-part. And what are the supporters doing for support? So we all are the supporters. And so what are we doing for support? I would love to hear from you all, because I know for me, it's been really difficult. The longer this has drawn out, the more difficult and more challenging it has become. And so turning to the alumni network to really hear from each of you as to those sort of points. Just raise a hand, or because it's a smaller group today, you can just unmute and start speaking. I think that'd be great.
Wesner, I can go first if you'd like.
Great. If you could just say your name, where you're from, and if you want to share your organization as well, that'd be great. Thanks. Thank you, Allison.
Okay, thanks. I'm Allison Wagner. I am from the North Star Care community, which is one of the largest not-for-profit hospice organizations in the United States. I live in the Detroit area, and I think I got everything, hopefully. So working for a hospice organization right now, as you can imagine, has a lot of different challenges, a lot of changing activities pretty rapidly. But this might be surprising to you, but one of our organizational values is about having fun. And I know that might seem totally just crazy right now, but we're looking for those moments. And I had formed a group at work called the Directors Collaboration Group of directors across the state of Michigan. And totally randomly, a couple of them had signed up for a charity race, which was supposed to take place last Sunday. Of course, that was canceled. But instead, I said, well, why don't we do it virtually? And more people jumped on, and we did the craziest race I have ever done before, like holding your phone, like jogging with it, and texting and taking photos of where we were running and stuff like that. And then each individual donated to a different charity as a result. So it was maybe a simple thing, but something that we did that was really fun and uplifting for people that have really been having a hard time lately.
Thank you for that, Allison. It's really helpful. I see Sarika, I apologize if I pronounce your name improperly. If you could just share your name, where you're from, and organization as well. Great. You are muted, so if you're talking, Sarika, we can't hear you. Let's see, I can.
Hi everyone. I raised the hand by mistake. I actually logged out and I logged in again by mistake. So I have no question. I'm not speaking. I'm just here to learn from all of you. This is my first call.
Okay, welcome. And you're from Singapore, yes?
Yes.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Charles, you wanna, we see anything in the chat room? While, I encourage you all to speak. I would really love to hear from you as well, so.
Yeah, and if you're new to joining us, I love to call on people, and so please don't take
Charles is good at calling on people, so.
Hopefully,
Go
friendly
for it.
and welcoming way. But really just more out of curiosity and just wanting to give people spaces to elaborate and speak their heart. So one thing that stood out among many, Tamara wrote personal motivation support. How are you remaining motivated during this time of uncertainty? What are the supports? I'm sorry, Tamara, I was reading that as if that was your suggestion around staying personally motivated. What I also see from Monica, and Monica is a great contributor, talks about humor and active listening. And I can certainly agree with that. I think humor is a really key and important thing. And you know what, Tamara, I already called on you, and I feel like there was something on your heart that you wanted to share. So I do want to give you the space to share what you already had and you wanted to say. Did I make the right call there?
I was sharing the questions, it's my role, but I can share. So how am I remaining motivated? I'm honestly remaining motivated by finding additional projects that I can be a part of and kind of contribute to, whether it's within my workspace or through friends or colleagues. So that's really what I've been doing. So being a part of LeadersCafe is keeping me motivated. We started a staff development committee at work. I'm leading that. That's helping me. And then just my sister's also working from home. So whenever she's doing a project, we kind of use each other as our thought partners. So just continue to have those conversations and creative conversations, to Monica's point of being an innovator and keeping your mind flowing. That's definitely what I've been doing. And then for support, I'm very fortunate to have a strong community around me with my friends and family. So they've been my support system.
That's great.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Tamara. Appreciate that. Support systems are really critical as well during this time. And this is indeed yet another support system. So I'm again so grateful. Victoria, I see you've raised a hand.
Sure.
How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to share a little bit about one of the things that I found really helpful is leaning in.
Can you share, Victoria, where you're from? I'm sorry.
For sure. I'm in Marquette, Michigan, so I'm 7 hours north of Allison in Detroit. And I work for Grow and Lead. We're a capacity building center. So I work with other nonprofits. Specifically right now, we're doing a lot of dissolutions and startups, and it's a weird time to be working as a capacity builder. But one of the things that I've done is really leaning into habits that I've had for a while. I don't know if anyone has read Rachel Hollis's stuff, but she has the 5 to Thrive. And I found that going back and like grounding myself in the 5 to Thrive, it's getting up an hour before you need to, moving your body for 30 minutes, giving up a food you shouldn't be eating. Oh my gosh, what are the other two? Drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. And there's one more. Oh, writing down your gratitude list every day, 5 things you're grateful for. And doing those things every morning, regardless of if it's a work day, a weekend, whatever. Those are like 5 things that I can control and schedule and plan for, no matter what's happening around me. And I prioritize making time for those 5 things. And it's really helped me stay focused and motivated personally. and making sure that I'm just taking care of myself and when I have energy. Because one of the things I found was that I was like getting so wrapped up in my work that by the end of the day, I was so tired and lacked the energy to do those things that were good for myself. So now getting up that hour early, making sure I'm doing those things before engaging with my laptop has really made a huge difference for me in staying motivated.
Thank you, Victoria. That was great. Question about the water. So why would you, what's the benefit of just to sort of just be healthy, just drink more water?
Yeah, just hydration. I know, like, I'm a coffee addict. I'm on my 3rd cup already, and I've only drinking like 12 ounces of water. So balance
it out. Okay, got
yeah.
it. And I really appreciate that grateful list. I'm gonna start that myself. I see Caitlin's giving a thumbs up to that as well. So thank you for sharing, Victoria.
Yeah.
And Monica's also giving a thumbs up. Any others? Before we move to our last piece, just want to open it up for others. Charles, is there any in the chat room before we move on to our last segment?
Yeah, no, I was going to also highlight Z as well. I think we were headed in the same direction. And Z mentions gratitude is very important and has become a focus for myself and the team, and doubles down by saying how important it is. Z, would you be willing to elaborate? You really emphasize the importance of gratitude, and I'm curious what that looks like, not only for you, but you also mentioned your team as well.
Sure. Hi, Z Peters. I'm out here in Seattle working for an organization called the Sophia Way, which is providing shelter for women who are experiencing homelessness in our area. So as you can imagine, we are very, very focused on all of the requirements around addressing the needs of these women related to the coronavirus. And so it's easy to get wrapped up in those details. And so I've really encouraged everyone on the team to begin every conversation that they have from a place of gratitude. And so sometimes that is simply saying, I'm so happy that you're here today. Sometimes that is, wow, look at the space that we've been able to create so that our women can be 6 feet apart, which was a huge game changer for us organizationally. And sometimes it's doing what we need to do and calling our donors and supporters and expressing care and saying thank you at the same time. So that's where I come from in saying that it's important. It's important for your team. It's important for those that support you. And it's important for yourself to recognize that you did all you could do that day and appreciate that you did that, even if others aren't saying thank you directly.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really great sentiments, particularly the poignant around you've done all you can do. Sometimes the day's over and you're like, I should be doing more. You feel like this sense of anxiousness, but giving yourself that grace. I really appreciate you sharing that, Z. So thank you all for sharing. This was really great and uplifting conversation. And so for the last piece, we have this exciting opportunity to be able to actually do sort of a real time instead of a pre-planned question. We launched this Ask the Alumni at our last Leaders Cafe call. And so this is our second time doing it. And what we were thinking about around Ask the Alumni is really an opportunity, real time, for each of you all, because we are a network of experience, we are a network of innovation, a network of creativity, we're a network, and we are also a network during these times where we are trying to be connected and share and choose love over fear. And so in that spirit, we wanted to give space for each of you to ask questions real time and to get a response real time from fellow alumni. So the Ask the Alumni segment is, if you have a question, you can just raise a hand, or because the group is smaller, you can just go ahead and unmute, ask the question. We'll open it up to our alumni network. And if those of us have answers or things that we can share to be supportive, this is the time. So whatever's on your mind, whatever's pressing, whatever's burning, and even if it's not, if you just have some things that you're musing about and would want to get some feedback. I know it's been very important for me to have a network of individuals that I can connect to, just a network of leaders. And so this is an addition to that, and we want to have that, create that space for all of you.
So I have a curiosity question. This is Z again, from out in Seattle. Is anyone seeing organizations that are actively pursuing mergers at this point?
This is Monica. I'm not sure about mergers per se, but I'm seeing more co-collaboration, kind of a barter opportunity almost. If there's 2 or 3 organizations who they know that, hey, we do marketing well, but like we can do this, we can do the supply chain well, they then co-collaborate so that way they reduce the immediate cost, but then they win together and reach out to a bigger network. So I'm seeing more of that, but not mergers yet. I'm hearing, but not something concrete.
Thank you, Monica.
Yeah, I would echo what Monica says. I've been hearing the same, particularly in the nonprofit space, how organizations can work together and cross collaborate. I think there's more of that, to echo what Monica said. So thank you for that question. Any others with questions?
One thing I'll love to add then is I'm curious now, knowing that, not to scare it off, but knowing that this will last for, not just few weeks, few months, but few years, and the implication, I know at least some of the decisions I thought I would be making a month and a half ago is very different from what I want to now start making now. And so I'm curious, like, if folks are willing to share maybe some key decision making that they've changed that maybe could help all of us reframe and something that we can walk away with. I think I'm going to just put that out there to get some thoughts.
This is Gary Scharfman from New York, unaffiliated just now. I just want to say that what I find very helpful is having a clear, Monica, you said it could be many years. We don't know that. There's so much that we don't know right now about the science behind COVID-19 that as long as one kind of distills out I'll just say that the noise and just looks at the science, it seems like there are some very thoughtful paths being pursued right now that could lead to some fairly, if we have the will and the resources behind it, nationally and internationally, to get us up to speed sooner than I think we are being led to think in certain cases, and not as quickly as some others would like to think. And what I mean specifically is when they talk about the serial testing. So basically, once you know whether in fact you are immune, or that you at least have the antibodies, and whether those antibodies actually are sufficient, because you could be like, maybe you need half a tank of antibodies versus a quarter to be immune. That means you can in fact resume a normal life, and you don't have to worry about infecting anyone else. So that's the science that they're pursuing right now that seems to be way ahead of where they're going to be with a vaccine, which is probably a year and a half to 2 years from now. As far as like social distancing, I think social distancing, by the way, is maybe not the best term, because we're not social distancing. We're actually socializing right now. We're physically distancing. And that's a totally different way of looking at how I think we could be thinking about ourselves and how we relate to other people, because social and physical are two totally different dynamics. So I think, what I keep paying attention to is where are we hearing the real progress? And where are we just hearing things that just don't make sense? And I try more and more to tune out the craziness. And I'll just say this, that one of the things I turned off yesterday was hearing the mayor of Las Vegas talk, which I don't know if anyone was exposed to that, but it's toxic. And I think that's something that we can all look to and say, and something, Monica, you were talking about earlier, I think it's how we, if you see this, it's a gray day, you're going to have maybe a gray mood all day. And I think it's how not that we should be Pollyannas, but I think we can be like, what do we really know? What do we need to know? And how is that being communicated? And where am I getting my information from?
Really great. Thank you so much for the question, Monica, and for the response, Gary. It is a really critical point, the difference between social distance and physical distance. That's a really good point. And to Monica's earlier presentation about how we're framing our mind to thinking, right? So we are able to continue to socialize. All right. Any other questions? Charles, Allison, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. This is something that I'm working on managing right now, and I'm just curious how others might be doing this too. My staff are asking me, there's a lot of anxiety and fear, and they're basically asking me, like, when can we get back to it? When can we start getting back out into the field, doing the work that we love, instead of just the virtual space? And so I sort of toggle between, I want to give them enough information that they still feel empowered and purposeful with every one of their days. But I also don't want to commit to something because there are so many unknowns. So I've been living in this kind of limbo, but some of my staff really need like a specific date. And I'm just wondering if anybody is having those same questions come up and maybe how you're managing it.
Thank you, Allison. This is Caitlin. Again, I have more of a question than an answer to that, but we're having the same sort of issues in a very different way because we don't do hospice care or public health, but we work with young people and we work with leaders. And some of the folks on our team really need structure and really need those answers and really are finding this unknown incredibly scary, and others are sort of more flexible and can adapt and just sort of are rolling with it. And I think it really is it's different, like each person and each moment we're all dealing with it in different ways. But one thing we did decide to do as a broad team with the folks that are in Brooklyn and the folks who are in DC is to figure out what are the things that we can structure that we can control. And then we're putting together a survey for all of our whole unit about the needs and the workplace sort of needs and challenges and solutions they're finding, that how can we meet those needs and how can we share the solutions among each other, and then trying to figure out a way to structure transparently and explicitly like the next 3 months. What does that look like, assuming that we're not all going to be right, it's not going to be back to normal. So it doesn't answer the question about the date because we just can't do that, but figuring out some way, absent a clear date and an obvious path forward among all these unknowns, some way to build a sense of control around the things we can control, and give folks a sense of structure and something they can kind of lean on and rely on, and doing that, co-creating that together so that we are like transparent about how much is unknown. And also transparent about how much agency, especially younger staff, have. If you are really struggling and you can't do an 8-hour week for an 8-hour day for whatever reason, that's not what we're expecting. We're expecting this and X, Y, Z, and really making sure that folks know that if you work better at 3 in the morning for 2 hours and you want to take a nap in the middle of the day, that's okay. That's not doing poor work. You've got to figure out how to sort of set up the new schedule that works for you. So anyway, that's where we're sort of tackling it, is trying to figure out what are the things we can control and how can we empower ourselves to control them, and then communicate about what that means, because that's going to destabilize some of the team dynamics in very real ways. And it's hard for some folks to adjust to that.
Was that good, Al? Oh, Richard.
Hi, everyone. So I have a question that kind of speaks to more about the academy in particular and what's going to happen going forward. So, as you can imagine, some of you may know that we essentially took a hiatus from our academy programs this year and are not actually going to conduct some. We're doing the Women in Music Academy virtually, which is the first time we've done one virtually with the Center for Creative Leadership. and we're contemplating also doing a program with Thunderbird that would be in person, and a program with the CCL in the fall, both in the fall, with Center of Creative Leadership. But we the outlook for even the fall now is beginning to get fuzzy. I don't know whether folks are going to be interested in traveling in the fall. I don't know whether they want to get into a room with 24 other people. And so we're trying to figure out what we can do in the meantime. And so I'm just curious because, we've talked about this idea of a virtual academy, but I'm curious whether people who would be participating in that, who may know about who would probably more likely know that there have been in the past in-person academies, whether we would get the same level of interest to participate in something that's virtual in place of something that's in person. And so for people like yourselves who have gone through in-person academies, would you sign up for a virtual academy, or would you hold off until a more traditional academy is offered in the future?
Yeah, I would like to add on that. This is Nyasha. I'm from Zimbabwe and I represent Law Baskets. We're pretty much a legal marketplace, and our objective is to educate startups on business operations so that they can have a healthy business legally, and we do this for free. I think on this side, in Africa, it's very difficult for a lot of founders and a lot of social entrepreneurs would actually benefit from this. However, judging from even this conversation, me being the only person that's actually based this side, and there's a lot of discrepancies that could just complicate that, and I think it might just have to come down on how we would market this exactly. I think a lot of entrepreneurs this side would really benefit from this, but usually, in Nigeria and various other African nations, things like internet are it's very difficult to communicate or even to take part in Zoom calls because of that. So yeah, I think a lot of people might join, but on this side it might be very difficult unless it's marketed pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And so you participated in the Ashoka program in East or West Africa, or in Senegal, or in Nairobi last when you participated?
Yeah, I took part in the Ashoka leadership in Nairobi. I went there for 2 days. It was amazing. But even that side as well, like I can tell, yeah, even from the people in the group, I actually got to find out about this from Shoshana, but I know a lot of we have a group as well from the participants from last year, and a lot of people don't know about this Leaders Cafe. So once again, I think it just goes down on broadcasting it and sharing it for all members to be aware. And the more advanced, the better.
Do you have access through LinkedIn? Do you feel like the folks who are in your cohort and others that have participated in Africa just aren't on a LinkedIn page where this information is available?
Yeah, they are on LinkedIn, but they are not as active. Usually, the best means of communication in Africa is through WhatsApp. Even for business meeting, for a lot of guys over here, we don't do Zoom calls. We go like, hey man, let's have a call on WhatsApp. So yeah, the best way to communicate would maybe be Facebook. I think maybe we could use the Facebook the Facebook platform. I think another great way is also tagging the social entrepreneurs and maybe their social enterprises. That way they can be alerted as well. It's obvious we have a list of the leaders that were part of last year's group, so it wouldn't be hard to contact them, and I wouldn't mind as well sharing with them directly because I'm in contact with each and every one of them. But yeah, I'll just need to know in advance. But I know a lot of people would be definitely interested in this. And another thing is maybe getting in touch with publications. We are very well versed with the publications, like let's say Tech in Africa, VC for Africa, Venture for Africa. There's so many platforms, and we're always well versed with these platforms as well. So maybe also getting in touch with one of these publications would be also a great idea. I could also share the contact with you, and yeah.
So great. I'm glad you spoke up, sir. That's a very interesting because that I had not thought about the internet and the kind of the problems that folks in Africa might have, and then maybe folks in Asia also that may have these same issues, and even maybe folks in other parts of the U.S. So let's see whether we can tackle some of those issues as it relates to how we might be able to communicate better with our African alums. So thank you. And so I'm also curious about folks who are participated in the programs in the U.S. And also others who may have participated in other academies about a in-person versus a virtual experience. I mean, we hear that's a very good point that folks who are in some countries just don't have the ability to take part in a robust Zoom conversation or training program because they don't have the bandwidth. But with those who even do have it, would it also be an issue with a totally virtual program versus an in-person, knowing the relationship and context that you make at an academy are one of the things that we see pretty traditionally and pretty often as being some of the highlights of the program is that interaction with individuals who are actually by your side in the program.
Richard, Gary.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say, Richard, I have to say my experience at the Academy last spring, I can't fathom how that would be done. I realize it's a totally different creature if it was done remote, but so much of it was tactile, so much of it was interaction with people, and the actual even the facilitators and all the activities that I realized would have to be rethought how they would be done virtually. But you know, it's one thing to do some other alternate offering that could be, you know, something light, LITE, but I think that what you have created, you have such a model that to tinker with that when everyone going forward doesn't have the same shared experience, which I think we can all relate to that. I think you probably have been fairly consistent year after year in what you present to people, what you provide to people, that I think it would be a little, I don't think it really serves the brand of what you're creating here, but I do think that there are opportunities, at least for the alumni who've gone through the program, and right now we're looking at 17 people on this Zoom call right now, that could become a much wider network than it is right now, and I think that's something to look at how that could be developed further.
That's good feedback. Thanks, Gary.
Final comment from Tamara, and I know we are a little over time, but I just wanted to give space. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So I definitely agree with what Gary shared. There's definitely some opportunity to create some iteration, but I think part of the success, at least, you know, I attended Converge in December, part of it was being able to disconnect and really hone in and focus on myself and the leadership development and all of the amazing content that was being provided. So I think doing it at home, the same thing, I don't think it would be as impactful or as transformational because there will be so many distractions still. I think the strength in Converge for me was really being able to disconnect and be in a space where I'm basically waking up in leadership and going, at the end of the day, I'm ending my day that way with the same people, having those conversations, making those deeper connections. And while it is important to keep us engaged and definitely do something in the interim, I I really find the strength of the program being in disconnecting from technology and having a whole separate space to focus.
Can I add something quick too?
Okay, sure.
I do just want to advocate for us in rural America that I have 3 colleagues that I think would be fantastic fits for the programs, but they are intimidated in applying because of how difficult it is for us to get to large cities. So I did mine in Detroit. I had to put a day for flying down to Detroit. I had the 2 days in Detroit, and then I had to budget a day for flying back. So even though it was 2 days, it was actually 4 days for me. And I think that you might open yourself up to new audiences that may not be able to get to some of the larger city centers to participate in something. So it might look different, and it might not be as robust in the relationships that are built, but you'd be reaching people that wouldn't be able to have the experience any other way.
And sorry, Westerner, if I can add just one more point. As somebody who actually creates programs and run programs, I completely hear you how offline is powerful. That's the very reason why I actually am struggling right now, because I don't have online programming. But I would have to add also that the very reason why I am also advocating that the gap of not having that could actually be detrimental equally is because the reason why that program exists and we are all here is because we needed that and we've grown to be part of it. Right now, the world has changed. And I think not having that option for somebody who really needs that in itself is a disservice for them as well. Because of this, they actually really need that message. They really need that solution. They really need that connectivity. And so I think I just want to add that piece. Yes, it is inconvenient. It is distracting. But there's so much worse things of them not having that insight. And so I just want to add that point. And to add to Victoria's point, yes, like the world in a way, because of the point that has been mentioned about the introverts and the connectivity, that's absolutely the reason why we then explore what are the technologies and the way we facilitate that. And that's part of the reason why having a great program creator is important, because they will then redo all of that and recreate what that amazing experience can be that cannot be done also because they can't meet in person. And I think that's, again, why we rely on the expertise, just like with the health expertise, for them to create what that experience can be co-created, which all of you are doing with retransforming the work you do. So just adding that note to advocate for that.
Great.
Okay, well, most of the groups that we work with, most of the partners that we have, the CCLs, the Common Purpose, the Ashokas, the Thunderbird, they all have something that they can pivot to. I mean, CCL is probably, and the folks at Thunderbird, because they're part of the Arizona State University, they both have pretty robust and sophisticated programs. And so we have talked with them about possibility, but I've been wondering about this because I'm getting a little nervous about what 2021 brings, because I'm just not 100% certain that we're going to be ready to get back into big groups and fly places. Mm-hmm. But there might be some things that we can experiment with going into 2021 that could combine or could utilize the model. So thanks for the feedback, and you'll hear hearing more about that as we go into 2021. And I know it's only not even the middle of 2020 yet, but thinking forward, that's all.
Yeah, great. And thank you for putting that to the alumni, Richard. I appreciate that. I value the advantage of all of your feedback. It's really great to hear. So we are over a little bit with time, but I know that this has been a really, really great conversation, and I appreciate all of you for staying a little extra. So I will make my closing remarks very brief. I do just want to highlight in the agenda for you all at the very bottom where it says, what's next? The wrap up, there are some links. There's a resources, Leaders Cafe resources. There's a bit.ly that was dropped in as well for the Leaders Cafe resources. And that is really the repository for all the information that we have been gathering throughout these incredible connection moments with the alumni. So you should definitely check that out. There's a lot of great resources there. Also, there is a COVID-19 series that Leader Stories is doing. Monica and Caitlin are really heading that. and it's called Insights for Uncertain Times. If you want to be featured, I had the pleasure of also lending my voice to a blog, and it's really a great opportunity to share with the network in a different way. Monica and Caitlin's information is on the agenda as well, so please reach out to them also. So big thanks to my co-host extraordinaire, Charles Sands. Thank you very much. And thanks to Tamara for the behind the scenes work as well. I appreciate you both. Thank you again to Richard and to Rebecca, and thanks to Caitlin and team and to all of you who joined today. Our numbers have been, in terms of the engagement, have been all over the map. But I think the most important thing that we have found is that each time we come together, it's enlightening, it's illuminating, it's encouraging. And so my charge for you today is to continue to think about leading with love and not with fear, and try to figure out what acts of kindness you can do today for others, and know that that will come back sevenfold to you. So I will end with the quote, which is our mantra for Leader Stories. I just dropped it in the chat. Dr. Martin Luther King, quote, "Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." We are in this together. We are stronger as a network when we have opportunities to continue to connect. And so I'm grateful for each of you. I'm grateful for this time and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Caitlin, are you saving the chat? Richard.
Yes.
Yes. So just my 2 cents on the matter. I do think that you should